Do let a couple more people in. I'm really excited that you guys are here for this conversation. It's been a hot topic lately, which is one of the reasons I felt it was super important to just talk about it. I have these conversations individually amongst many women, and it was just kind of a common thread. So I'm excited to bring this to you in a little bit of a bigger format here. So I wanted to before I dig in here, I did want to just, take a minute to just let you guys know who I am. Some of you I know, some of you we've had conversations, some of you were invited by other people. All of you guys are welcome. But I did just want to introduce myself and share why this particular conversation really matters so much to me. I am a midlife woman, just like, many of you. And I can tell you firsthand that this season looks really different than what most of us were prepared for. The body changes, the energy shifts, uh, the brain that used to feel like sharp suddenly feels just foggy, right? And then on top of all of that, you have GLPs that enter the conversation, and with them came just this whole pile of feelings. Are these really helping? Are they safe? Who actually needs them? Aren't they cheating? That's the best one. And I hear lots of questions again every single day because I'm constantly talking to midlife women. They are my people. And the same struggles keep coming up. I have gained weight that I cannot get rid of, especially around my belly, or, I can barely make it through the day without feeling like I need an afternoon nap, or, just my brain just feels foggy and I don't feel like I'm just sharp anymore. So if any of that lands with you, just know that you're not alone. I mean, not even a little bit, okay? That is exactly why I wanted to put this call together, because I really want you to walk away with some real information about how these peptides work, what the benefits actually are, and just kind of how to think about them. So if you ever find yourself struggling with these same things, you have what you need to decide whether some additional support might be a right fit for you. Okay. Now, just a little bit about me. Yes, for close to a decade, I worked as a fitness and nutrition coach, and I taught women and men how to build a solid foundation through nutrition, through movement, sleep, hydration, stress management, all the things. And I taught it in a way that was actually enjoyable, because if it's not, enjoyable, it's not going to be sustainable, right? It really doesn't matter what you're doing. It has to be enjoyable and something that you can actually stick to. And I was actually really successful at it. And helping people get healthy felt amazing, for lack of a better term. Then I hit around 48, and suddenly the lifestyle that had worked for me just wasn't working anymore. And I should like maybe rephrase that. It was working because your foundations are never going to steer you wrong, but it just wasn't yielding the same benefits. I found myself a little bit puffy. I was a little bit inflamed. My labs were trending in the wrong direction, and I was kind of at a loss, right? And here I was teaching all these people to do, you know, this lifestyle, and I was living this lifestyle, and now all of a sudden I was kind of at a loss. So I found a hormone specialist, and I started working really closely with her, and I got my hormones balanced for the most part. And that relieved a lot of the perimenopausal symptoms that I was dealing with, but it didn't necessarily move the needle on my body composition or really even my lab numbers. So I was kind of stuck in this weird gap. I looked okay, I felt okay, but okay wasn't really what I was going for. I wanted to look and feel amazing. So I went back to my hormone doctor and I told her, look, something still feels off. And she said, have you ever considered trying a tiny dose of a GLP? I really thought she lost her mind at that point, because she knew what I did for a living. And I had plenty of clients that were on GLPs that I worked with. So I knew a lot about them. But I, like so many of us, only associated them with weight loss or somebody that had a pretty significant amount of weight to lose. And she explained a few of the other benefits and said, hey, why don't you just try a small dose for about 8 weeks? Treat it as an experiment. And then I want you to come back and I want you to tell me what you think. That little 8 week experiment started my entire peptide journey. And now, I'll be 52 on the 13th of this month. I am looking and feeling better than I ever did in my 20s and my 30s. And that's really why I wanted to put this together for you, because GLPs have officially entered the midlife conversation, and the benefits go way beyond weight loss. So I want to share with you just a quick little slide presentation that I put together because I think it does a really good job of just kind of outlining some of the benefits that most of us don't know about. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you. Can you see my screen? Is that a yes? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. 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 Okay. So let's just kind of roll through this. And if you guys have any questions at all, you can drop them in the chat. I'm going to circle around and answer them at the end. And then I also have a few FAQs that I think are also going to be really, really helpful for you guys. There are a lot of common questions that start circulating. So most of what people hear about GLP-1s is about weight loss, and that's the part that really gets the headlines, right? But the science is showing us something much bigger, especially for women in midlife. So today I want to walk you through what these medications are actually doing in the body and why this conversation really needs to expand a little bit. So let's set the context here, you guys, for midlife, because this is where things really start to shift. There are a few big changes, and I say few very lightly, but there really are a few really big changes that are happening in the body during this season. First, we've got cardiovascular risk, right? Estrogen is very protective for the heart, and as it drops, that protection goes with it. And within about 10 years after menopause, a woman's risk for heart disease catches up to a man's. Then you have insulin resistance. Estrogen helps keep your body sensitive to insulin. And as it declines, your body doesn't handle carbs the same way. And that's why the same eating habits that worked at 35 suddenly stop working at 50. Then you have the inflammation piece. This is low grade chronic inflammation, and it starts to rise. And this is what is behind so many of the symptoms women feel: the fatigue, the brain fog, the joint pain, the slow recovery. And then finally, you have the cognitive piece. You know, women are about twice as likely as men to develop Alzheimer's, and that risk starts building decades before symptoms ever show up. So when you look at all of this together, the question isn't really, is this just for weight loss? It really is, what else is this doing for my body? Because in midlife, you know, that answer matters a lot. Now, this is one, I think, of the most important things that we've seen in cardiovascular medicine in a really long time. So there was a large study called the SELECT trial, and it followed over 17,000 people who were overweight or obese. They had no diabetes, but they did have existing heart disease. And the results were pretty striking. Semaglutide, which is a GLP, reduced major cardiovascular events by 20%. Now that's similar to what we see with statins. And what really stands out is that all of this was happening independent of weight loss. So this isn't just about the scale, this is about what's happening inside of the body. Now you bring this into midlife, and estrogen, right, plays a big role in protecting the heart. And as it starts to decline, especially around menopause, that protection drops and cardiovascular risk starts to rise. By the time women reach their late 60s, that risk is right in line with men. So anything that can meaningfully reduce the risk, I think that matters. And what we're seeing is that GLP-1s may help by lowering inflammation in the blood vessels, improving blood pressure, supporting lipid markers, and even having direct effects on the heart and vascular system, which again is why this conversation is so much bigger than just weight, right? Now, this is sometimes a piece that gets overlooked. The GLP-1s aren't just about eating less, okay? They're working on how your body processes glucose and insulin, which is exactly what starts to shift in midlife. And that's why, again, what worked at 35 suddenly doesn't work the same when you're 50. So it's not that you're off track. It's that insulin resistance starts to build and your body just responds differently. And these medications are targeting that root issue. And here's another number that's worth, I think, paying attention to. In tirzepatide trials, which is another GLP, there's about a 30 to 40% reduction in visceral fat. Now, that's that deep belly fat, the kind that wraps around your organs. It's super dangerous. Okay, that's linked to things like diabetes, heart disease, and inflammation. So again, you guys, it's not just about weight. It's about what's happening metabolically beneath the surface. Then there's something called chronic low-grade inflammation. Sometimes it's referred to as inflammaging, and it's what connects so many of the symptoms women feel in midlife: the fatigue, the brain fog, the achy joints, the slower recovery, the stubborn weight, even the changes to your skin. These aren't random. They're often coming from the same underlying issue. And now here's where it gets kind of interesting. GLP-1s have been shown to lower key inflammatory markers in the body, things like CRP, IL-6, and TNF alpha. And what's important is that this appears to happen, again, independent of weight loss. So, this isn't just about the scale. This is a direct effect that's happening inside the body. And for many women, this right here, the inflammation piece, becomes one of the most notable shifts that they see first. They feel less inflamed, they feel more clear-headed, they feel more steady. So when you look at it this way, it starts to make more sense why these really are part of the midlife conversation, right? The risk here is something that I don't think a lot of us women really realize. Did you know that women are about twice as likely as men to develop Alzheimer's? And nearly 2/3 of those living with it are women. So when we're talking about midlife health, brain health needs to be a part of that conversation. Okay. Now, this is still emerging, but I do find it really interesting. So GLP-1s are being studied for their effects on the brain because they can cross into brain tissue and support insulin signaling. That matters because Alzheimer's is often described as insulin resistance in the brain. They also appear to help reduce inflammation in the brain and support how the brain uses glucose for fuel. And there are even large late stage trials that are underway looking at, I think it was semaglutide, for Alzheimer's prevention and treatment. Now, as far as I know, I don't think they have the final results yet, but the direction this is heading is definitely something to pay attention to, especially for women, just given our increased risk. Now, things start to shift a little bit right here because for years, women have been told that their cravings, thinking about food all the time, and not being able to stick to a plan or their new program is a willpower issue. It is not. If you hear nothing tonight, just hear that. It is not a willpower issue. This is biology. And this is where GLP-1s really change the conversation. one of the first things that many women notice is that the constant thoughts around food start to quiet down, sometimes within just a couple of days. Hunger and fullness signals feel more normal again. And a lot of people will say, especially women in particular, will say that they actually get some like mental space back, like hours of energy that they didn't even realize food was taking up. And then there's this added layer that's really fascinating. They're starting to see that GLP-1s may also reduce things like alcohol cravings, smoking, and even other addictive behavior. So it seems to quiet the brain's reward pathway overall. So if you've ever felt like food was taking up more space in your brain than it should, that relief that women talk about when that noise quiets down is very real. And again, you guys, this was never, it was never a willpower issue. Okay. Now, here's a few areas that don't get a whole lot of attention, but really do matter in midlife. I didn't know about these until I really started digging into these. But first, you've got the sleep component. Tirzepatide is now the first medication approved for moderate to severe obstructive sleep apnea. And this is a really big deal because sleep apnea is incredibly underdiagnosed in women. And it can show up as fatigue, it can show up as brain fog, it can show up as weight struggles, things a lot of women just assume are part of aging. And then you've got liver health. So GLP-1s have been shown to reduce liver fat and inflammation in what's now being called MASLD. Don't ask me what that acronym stands for because I can't remember, but basically it used to be fatty liver disease. Okay. And this affects about 1 in 3 adults, and most people have no idea they have it. But over time, it's a major driver of metabolic issues and even liver disease. And then you've got the kidney health, right? In large trials, semaglutide reduced the progression of kidney disease by about 24% in high-risk patients. So when you look at all of this together, the sleep, the liver, the kidneys, again, this is why the conversation around GLPs is so much bigger than just weight loss. So I want to just kind of like wrap this up, and then I'm going to open up for some questions with a couple of takeaways here. First, okay, weight loss is just one outcome. I mean, the bigger picture is what's happening with your heart, your metabolism, your brain, your inflammation. I mean, that's what really impacts long-term health and how you feel day to day. Second, you've got the foundations. You guys, these still matter. They still come first. The protein, the strength training, the sleep, the stress management, the hydration, those need to be non-negotiables. GLPs will not replace them, okay? They work best when those systems are already in place. And then third, you need to make sure that there is medical oversight. Okay, these are real medications. Dosing, monitoring, and really making sure that it's appropriate for you based on your history and your goals, they all matter, okay? So if I leave you with one thought, I want it to be this. I mean, I want you to understand that this conversation is really shifting. It's not just about should I take this for weight loss anymore, because it does make sense to be part of your long-term metabolic plan for certain people. Okay. And so I think, that's a much more interesting question if you're thinking about GLPs is it the right, is it the right one for me to be asking in midlife? And I think that's really, kind of what it comes down to. Okay. Now I want to just chat through a couple of, and you guys will probably agree with me. These are probably some questions that you're thinking of. And if you don't, maybe I just planted the seed. But these are some of the common questions that I do get that I, answer multiple times on a daily basis. Are these safe long-term? Okay, so actually there is a lot of data here. GLPs have been used for years in both pediatrics and adults. So we're not looking at something brand new here. Okay, we have over a decade of safety data from diabetes use to several years now in weight management. Longer term data is still being collected, but the overall safety profile is very well understood. So some people stay on these long term, some people use them for a duration and then come off. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about what that actually looks like. Let's talk about muscle loss, right? This is something that is a very real concern, and it's also very preventable. Without the right approach, about 25 to 40% of the weight loss can come from lean mass. Okay. That's exactly why I always come back to the foundations first. Okay. We have to make sure that the weight you are losing is fat, not muscle. That means prioritizing protein consistently. That means strength training on a regular basis. That means actually fueling your body even when your appetite is a little bit lower. So there's a little strategy to it. GLP-1s reduce appetite, which sounds like a win to some people. Okay. But it can quickly turn into undereating if you're not intentional. And when that happens, your body starts pulling from muscle. So if this is done right, you can maintain and even build muscle while losing fat. When it's done wrong, you're going to lose strength, your metabolism is going to slow down, and you are not going to feel as good in your body. Okay. And you're not going to be thrilled with the peptides either. I can promise you that. And this is why you cannot skip the basics, because they matter even more when you are leaning into GLP support. Okay. Let's talk about what happens when you stop. All right. Most women will regain some weight if they stop without a plan, because the underlying metabolism and signaling haven't been fully supported long term. And this is where my approach might be just a little bit different than some others, but I'm always looking kind of at the full picture first, right? The nutrition, the protein intake, strength training, all those that I talked about, those foundations matter because they're what help your body actually maintain the results. Again, some women stay on these long term, similar to how someone might stay on blood pressure support if they needed it, right? Others use it as a tool for a period of time while they build their healthy habits, and then they taper off strategically. But either way, there's got to be a plan, because the goal isn't just losing the weight, it's keeping it off. It's feeling strong, and it's having a body that's actually working with you long term. All right. Should women in perimenopause take these? You guys, for the right woman, absolutely, these can make sense. Okay. What's happening metabolically in perimenopause and menopause, the shifts in insulin sensitivity, the appetite signaling, and the inflammation is exactly what these medications are designed to support. So it's not really about age. Okay. It's more about whether your body is showing signs that it could be a supportive tool, because I actually work with a lot of younger adults too, who are struggling with PCOS and other, autoimmune conditions as well. So it's not just for perimenopause and menopause, but seeing that we tend to see a lot of these symptoms during this time, this tends to be the group that I feel like is really interested in these right now. And then let's talk about microdose, right? This is kind of the hot topic. Microdosing just simply means using a dose that's lower than the standard starting protocol. Okay. The goal is gently supporting the body rather than driving any sort of aggressive change here. And this can be really useful for midlife women, especially those who do not have much weight to lose or any at all. But maybe they're starting to notice some shifts in how their body feels and how their body responds, and where they're, holding weight now that they didn't before. So, things like maybe less stable blood sugar, maybe you feel like that roller coaster during the day where you feel like you're crashing in the afternoon, maybe increased hunger or food noise, just in general. Again, that weight that's gaining, usually in particular around the belly, that seems to be the largest complaint that I get. And then the energy, kind of like the highs and lows there. In these cases, the goal is not appetite suppression or rapid weight loss. It's more about supporting the underlying physiology by improving insulin signaling, stabilizing the blood sugar, and really kind of helping regulate appetite cues in a more balanced way. So I would say a lot of my clients do microdose very successfully. Okay. So if anything, you guys, I hope that this was really helpful. I would love to answer any questions and kind of open this up for a little Q&A. Anybody have any questions? Anybody? Anybody? Now's the time.
Holly, can you hear me?
I can, Misty.
Hi,
How are
beautiful
you?
Holly.
Mhm.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
So, my husband is somebody who I really feel like could benefit. He has inflammation, he has insulin resistance, he's at a higher risk of heart disease and stroke. The only thing that I worry about is he already could kind of either take or leave food, or he goes like bonkers and eats like a ton when he does get hungry. So with the appetite, can you just give some examples of like what would that look like for somebody who already doesn't have a very big appetite? Like what are some tips or some tools that could be utilized?
Yeah, so this is a really good question. So, what I can tell you is that you have to take advantage of the opportunity and the periods where you are hungry. So, typically for those on a GLP, your morning time, and I know a lot of us are like, yeah, but we don't like breakfast. Or we're not hungry in the morning. Your morning time is going to be the best time for you to really capitalize on your nutrition. Like that's where you should really set the tone for the day when it comes to protein. And you have to remember too, when your appetite is a little bit suppressed, there's not a lot of room for fluff. Okay. You have to make sure that the food that you're consuming is going to be nutrient dense. You need to get in all of your, I say macros lightly, but you guys, for those of you who don't know macros, we're talking, our carbs, our fats, our proteins. We need a mix of them all. And for those that steer clear of carbohydrates or really try to keep those lower, I want you to just kind of open up your mind a little bit here and really be thinking about the complex carbohydrates that are really good for you. Because when appetite is reduced, your energy can tend to go a little bit flat. So we have to make sure we have the carbs in there to support that. So my recommendation is always to start the day with really your largest meal. And then as the day goes on, you kind of taper off a little bit. And if you notice on a GLP, 9 times out of 10, that's actually where you are hungrier in the morning. And then as the afternoon gets on, it's like the day goes by, it's like nighttime, and you're just not really feeling it too much. If you're not currently eating like this, I highly recommend that you try. It does wonders for digestion too, as well as sleep in the evening. Some people can get a little bit bloated or a little bit constipated if we're not making sure that we are drinking enough and making sure that we're getting in enough fiber and all of that. So by front loading your day with most of your nutrition and then kind of tapering off throughout the day, you really do wonders for your digestion at night. So that's something that I think is really, really important to do. And I know this can be a big shift for a lot of people. Also, small meals matter. I know, for me and even the lifestyle that I coach, we really prioritize 3 large, well-balanced meals. It's not necessarily the way that you can eat on a GLP. So we have to make some modifications, and small meals count. So if that is cottage cheese and yogurt with, some berries and some granola on top, where we just want to make sure that we're getting in enough protein. Okay, 100 grams of protein at minimum. You cannot go less than 100 grams of protein. There's just you're going to stall. Your results are not going to be what you want them, and you're going to start to lose muscle. So that is just you're going to end up going down the spiral if you don't consume at least 100 grams of protein every day. The goal is even more than that, especially if you are on maintenance. The goal is 1 gram of protein per your ideal body weight. And that can take some time to really get used to, depending on where you are on your GLP journey. If you're somebody that is just kind of maintaining and there for metabolic support, so you don't need a lot of weight loss, you're on the lowest effective dose, you want that to be your sweet spot. And this sweet spot is going to be different for everybody. It's going to be where you can eat enough food to fuel your body and to support that muscle, but you still get all the metabolic benefits. So again, that could be, 1 milligram for some people. That can be 2.5 milligrams for some people. So it's not like cut and dry. So there's a lot of flexibility, especially in the microdosing area, to see where it's going to be your sweet spot. And I think that's kind of big for a lot of people because they don't realize that they've got the flexibility there, right? You get your microdose prescription, you're very excited about microdosing, and there's a therapeutic microdose. And sometimes that dose is far too high for some people. They don't need that. So I think it's really, really important to be able to understand that too. It's just a little bit different. I'm not a doctor. I'm not telling you what to do, but I don't like to start my clients on a therapeutic low dose, even if they're getting a microdose. I like to start even lower. My take is low and slow. You can always put more in. You cannot take it out, right? So low and slow, get your body used to it. Let's work to find your sweet spot. I know I totally went off there, Misty, but I hope with your husband, for somebody who doesn't really like to eat much, they've got to get really creative and they have to front load their day. You've got to be, even if you're not a breakfast eater, you need to learn to become a breakfast eater. It's going to help you tremendously.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Can I ask one more super
Yeah,
quick question? I feel like
absolutely.
I should know this, but it's not a growth, it doesn't have any growth hormone in the GLP. Is that right?
Correct.
Awesome.
No growth hormone in that. Yeah.
Thank you, Holly.
You're welcome, doll. Can you?
Holly,
Yeah. Yes,
can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, hi. I feel like
Hi.
I'm talking to a celebrity. I'm so excited.
Oh my gosh, you're so cute.
This is
I
so
love
awesome. So, quick question. I'll give you a little background. I'm in recovery. I'll have 11 years clean in August.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Since getting sober, I developed a binge eating habit, and because that was kind of like my crutch. So fast forward to about 2 months ago, I decided to get on retatrutide. I've been microdosing, and it has completely transformed my life. I mean, it's not like I need to lose like 40 or 50 pounds, but the food noise is gone. My inflammation in my right leg is gone. My ADHD is like 0 to none. My OCD is gone. I'm great. I'm more present with my kids. I'm not all over the place. My husband can see a difference. Like it has been so transformative. And I'm just like, am I allowed to be on this forever? Like I can't imagine having to go off. And so I guess my question is, when you say long term, how long is long term?
Yeah.
Because I just don't want to lose this. I don't plan on going high. I do 7 units every 7 days, and that's where I'm comfortable.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
and I apologize in advance if I have to get off. I have a church meeting to go to soon. So, but I
Yeah.
definitely just want to hear your opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can't speak to Retta per se. I have
Mm.
no personal experience with it. It is still a gray market peptide, just simply because it has not finished its clinical trials yet. But what I can tell you, and I've been researching it a lot because I know it's a hot topic, and I know if it does pass, and if it doesn't get deemed a biologic and can actually be compounded at a compounding pharmacy, I'm sure we will have it. But what I can tell you is that when I say long term, I truly do mean long term. It can be indefinitely. Now, I can't speak to Retta again per se. Now, I'm talking about the FDA approved ones. Those are the
Like
ones
the
that
semaglutide and the trizepatide. Okay.
correct.
Okay.
Those are going to be the ones that have all of the studies behind them. So I
Mhm.
can't speak to Retta per se, but again, the GLPs in general, very, very safe. Like their safety profile is very well known, obviously, pediatrics to adults. So if you are feeling good and you have found your sweet spot, I say absolutely. I do not see why you would need to come off of that. But again, I don't know Retta. I haven't done enough on Retta per se.
Right. Right.
So I just can't, but I'm so happy for you. Like everything that you said is exactly what I witness in so many of the clients that I work with.
Yeah, I mean, it brings, honestly, it brings tears to my eyes. It has completely just, everything that I wanted to be and everything that I thought I couldn't get to, I'm now there, you
I
know?
love that for you. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Thank
Yeah.
you for
Thank you.
sharing that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you so much, Holly. Thank you.
you're welcome. You're welcome. I got a question over here. Can you start peptides when you start estrogen patches and progesterone? Is it better to let the HRTs do their thing first? Love this question. And no, there's actually there's a Lancet study that came out a couple of months. I don't even know if it was a couple months ago, maybe a month and a half ago, talking about using HRT in conjunction with, it wasn't all peptides, it was in conjunction with GLPs, and how much people benefited from having both of them on board versus just one or just the other. So you absolutely can start them both. I use both, love them, but you don't need to wait. I will tell you that HRT is going to help with a lot of symptoms. When it comes to, the hot flashes, the night sweats, all the crazy things that you experience in perimenopause that are just so frustrating and irritating. Your sleep, all of that, it's really going to help. When it comes to body composition and when it comes to inflammation, like all of these are things that the GLPs helped with tremendously. And here's something else that I want to tell you guys, and why I think this one is most appealing to midlife women, and just I think women in general, is this is a once a week injection. All right. Many of the other peptides are 3 to 5 day a week injections. And so for somebody who is starting out, I mean, most people aren't, thinking we're entering midlife and this is going to be the season I'm going to be injecting myself with peptides. This is very new to a lot of people, and we're way out of our comfort zone here. And so learning how to, navigate this once a week injection sounds really good. And here's something else I can tell you. And I was actually asked this by a doctor the other day, and she's a peptide researcher. And she said, okay, I'm just going to throw this out there to you. And she said, if you could only take one peptide for the rest of your life, what would it be? And I said, a low dose of a GLP. And she's like, exactly. And I was like, wait, would you agree? And she said, absolutely, 100%. It is the one peptide that just encompasses so many things when it comes to heart health, when it comes to brain health, kidney, liver, inflammation, insulin. It just goes on and on. It is that one peptide that just helps with so many things. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But yes, you can use them both. When is the best time to take it? You can really find your sweet spot. I like to take mine in the morning on an empty stomach, once a week in the morning. Some people take it midday. The biggest thing with peptides is to be consistent, right? So pick a day of the week that you're going to use it and just stay consistent with that. And I will give you a little inside information. Semaglutide, which is GLP-1, so it just works on, it's one agonist. That one tends to hit the same day you take it. Tirzepatide works on it's a dual agonist, and that one tends to hit day 2 and day 3. So for some people who really struggle over the weekend, they might take tirzepatide on Friday because they're going to have the most appetite suppression or craving reduction over the weekend. Sometimes people want that the other way around. But just in, a nutshell, semaglutide usually kicks in like day 1, and tirzepatide usually kicks in day 2 and day 3. If you're not on hormone therapy, can that be an issue when taking GLPs in midlife? Just curious. You know what? No, it's not that it's not going to be an issue. But if you get to a place where your progress has stalled, I think it is something worth looking into for sure, because GLPs aren't magic, so they can only do so much. And when your hormones are supported, I will say that from everything I've seen, they tend to work a lot better. But no, you don't have to. I mean, there are some people who can't take hormone therapy for one reason or another. And they are on peptides and doing really well. But I will say that for people that they're like, Holly, my progress has stalled, and we've tried a few things. We've done all the things that we need to do. I'm like, hey, what's going on with that hormone situation here? Are we working on that? Are we on hormone therapy? What's going on? And then they go and have their hormones checked. Things are totally out of whack. They get on some form of therapy, and their GLPs kick back in again. So definitely something that you can to consider. If I'm ready to take the next step with this, how do I get connected with LMD? Are there any concerns about name brands versus compounding GLPs? If you are ready to take the next step, make sure you get in touch with whoever invited you here, and it is a very simple process. And I hate to say simple in a way of like, oh, no big deal. You can just grab your peptides online. I say simple in the way that it's just, I feel like it is just kind of like a elevated telehealth platform. Okay, so you go to LAMD, you want to make sure that if you have not created a free account, that you go over there and create a free account. This is going to make sure that you can view all of the peptides that are available. All right, we still have some category 2 peptides, even though they are coming off the category 2 list, which is very exciting. So they are behind a wall, and so you won't be able to see them if you go to the website. So you want to make sure that you create this free account. Name and email gets you in the door and you can view everything. All right. Once you get to the peptide that you are thinking about, you can click on it. You can learn a little bit more about it. You can read some FAQs, check out some resources, definitely ask any questions if you have them. And then you go to checkout, and it's going to have you fill out a medical intake form. This is really important for you to make sure that you document everything. Now, what I will say is one of our MDs or our DOs is going to take a look at that medical intake form to make sure that the peptide that you are looking to purchase is going to be a good fit for you. Okay, this is not going to be your new doctor. This is just your doctor for that peptide. Okay, so you want to make sure that everything you put on the medical intake form is informative. It's not just going to be your, name and age and weight and height and all of that. They're going to want to know if you're on any medication. They're going to want to know if you're taking any supplements. They're going to want to know if you have had X, Y, and Z. Okay, there's a couple of pages worth of questions that you're going to need to fill out. That's going to be submitted to the doctor when you go to purchase and check out. The doctor's got 48 hours to review that. Usually it happens a little sooner than that, but they have 48 hours to review that. And we have a doctor network in all 50 states. So depending on what state you're in, that's going to be your doctor network. Okay. And once they approve it, it gets sent to our compounding pharmacy in Houston. Everything is made right there in Houston. And then it's going to get shipped to you via FedEx 2-day shipping with everything that you need to get started. And I say that because this is where, research peptides just like miss out on all of this. Like there's no medical oversight. They're usually scrambling for backwater and your syringes and all of this. Like when I say simple, I mean simple in the sense that everything comes to your door discreetly. For those of you that don't want anybody to know you're doing peptides, you're going to get your syringes, you're going to get your alcohol swabs, a little how to inject guide. You're going to get your peptides in there. All of it comes together for you. Plus you get access to, as a customer of mine, you get access to my longevity lounge, which is my private customer only support group. There are people in there that just started their peptide journey. There are people in there that have been on it for quite some time. So the wealth of knowledge in this space is really, really valuable. I mean, I'm talking about everything from, injection sites to what's working for somebody versus what's working, for not working for somebody. Just sharing all that information can be really, really helpful, especially when this is new to so many of us. So very, very streamlined that way. So if you're ready to go, that would be your path.
I have a question.
Yes.
If you can hear me. Okay. I was a client of your prior career. I still am. And I followed you forever. I'm struggling. I'm 56, menopause at 51. I lost all the weight I wanted with the other spot. And so I'm doing everything, the workouts still, but it's 10 pounds and it's the belly fat. And when I would gain any weight back, I wasn't tracking my macros. So I was supposed to track my macros and get enough calories in. I wasn't getting enough calories in. So when I would track and get my calories, I would lose the weight. So what I'm asking you, does a GLP-1, can it work not in conjunction with the amount of calories that I put in? Because I feel like I need to get a certain amount of calories in. So does it work separately a little bit also?
I would say yeah, because you have to remember that some of that, and whether or not we care to admit it or not, when we are in midlife, you guys, we get a lot of inflammation going on. It's just there. Some of us notice it more so than others. But chances are it is there. And inflammation is the root cause of almost every disease. So when we can reduce the inflammation, your body can start to respond more favorably on all fronts. So this is where I think this can be really helpful. So I have to tell you, many people are like, it's this 10 pounds. It's this
Oh,
last 10 pounds. It's just
yes.
not going anywhere. And it's not, again, it's not a willpower issue. This has to do with biology. So chances are you're going to keep going in this circle. And you're never going to like really get there. Like we have to get biology on your side here as well. So we've got to get, the inflammation down. We need to make sure that your insulin sensitivity is there because all of these
Yep.
are going to play a huge role in that. But I love that you are really paying attention to your nutrition because that is so important. And it would be the same sort of thing even on a GLP. Like you need to make sure that you're paying attention to your nutrition. But it can really help you get to that point that you're looking at. And you're going to realize that your body just feels so much better when it's supported in so many different ways. And that
Okay.
lifestyle is going to become even more easier for you to just adhere to.
Right. I just was so worried. My husband is on one, and I got to the point where I got a little resentful. I'm like, I have 5 kids. I had the 5 kids, and I'm sitting 10 pounds over, and I've been doing the other weight loss for 4 years. And I don't like that I'm resentful. And I just went to my doctor, a new doctor, and she would not. I asked her about it. I advocated, like you say, and it was a no-go because of BMI. My BMI. And I'm like, it shouldn't really matter. So, okay, if and I didn't really put that piece together about the inflammation
Mm-hmm.
because I still feel like I need to get a certain amount of calories in.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have food noise too. I think about, oh my gosh, what am
Yeah.
I going to eat next? I can't wait to go home and make my meal. So that would be nice also.
It's nice to have a little bit of support. Yeah. So here's the
Okay.
deal with BMI. And this is where, a lot of doctors really don't want to touch this because, BMI for weight loss, many of them, especially doctors, are going to be pushing the larger doses. This is big pharma. Okay. They're going to be pushing those because that's what they can get and that's what they're prescribing. This is where microdosing changes the game.
Yes.
So it's a much lower BMI. It's a much smaller amount. Many people are doing this that don't have a lot of weight to lose. I usually use the threshold. If you have, less than 12 pounds to lose, you're good to go. I think you could easily accomplish that with a microdose. If you got 15, 20 upwards, I say we need to tap into the weight loss dose. Now, it doesn't mean that's for everybody. I've had some people lose 25 pounds on a microdose, and I have had, the other way around as well. So, but generally, people that have like 12 pounds or less to lose can really do that on a microdose. So you get all of the benefits, the metabolic benefits, which probably are going to be super supportive to you.
Right.
And
Okay.
you'll still be able to eat the amount of food that you need to eat.
Yes. And my mom's had 2 heart attacks and,
Oh,
so
yeah.
the cardiovascular, she has a little bit of dementia. So there are a lot of other benefits. Okay. Thank you.
And that's
Thank
the
you.
big thing I think is that a lot of people just don't realize is all the other benefits aside from weight loss that these help with. And here's something else that I just want to tell you guys. I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner, and I will never, food is medicine, like all across the board. And sometimes I will get people that, know this about me, and they're like, why don't you just eat more foods that, contain GLPs? And I'm like, that's great. We should all be doing that anyway. Right? These are just colors of the rainbow. Food, all sorts of nutritious food can, help support natural GLP-1. But the problem is you guys, that lasts in your body for a matter of minutes. These GLPs that are helping us last a week. That is why you're getting the support from them, not just the ones from food. Don't get me wrong, food is never going to steer you wrong, especially when you're focusing on nutrient-dense food and all the colors of the rainbow, all the good stuff. But they only last so long. And so we're not quite getting enough support to really help us when it comes to these metabolic benefits.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. If I'm taking 0.25 milligrams of TERS once a week, not to lose weight, but more for inflammation, if I'm not consuming enough protein, can you feel fatigued? I feel like I have less energy throughout the day and harder recovery after lifting, maybe not enough protein. Yeah, absolutely. I would say definitely make sure that you are getting at least 100 grams of protein. And then don't forget the carbs. Carbs are our body's primary source of fuel for energy. Okay, that's what's going to make you feel good when you are, not eating a lot of food. You got to make sure that the food you are eating is going to provide you with the energy that you need. And I'm not saying go ham on carbohydrates. You need to make sure you get your protein in, but don't miss out on the fruits and the vegetables and the starchy carbs, whether that's sweet potato or quinoa or rice or whatever it is for you. Those are really going to be helpful when it comes to those of you that might be, a little flat on energy when you're on a GLP. Absolutely. Top up. Thank you so much. Awesome. Any other questions, you guys, that I can answer for you? Anybody? I feel like I hear a lot of athletic people taking tours for less bloating, tightness in the midsection, and not binge eating on long workouts. That could be. That could very well be. I don't hear a whole lot of that. The less bloating can work either one way or the other. It can be less bloating if you are somebody who is struggling with a lot of maybe gut issues. I mean, there are peptides that support that. You guys, there's a peptide for just about everything. That is no exaggeration. But typically, again, you guys in midlife, it's not just the metabolic benefits, but a lot of us have significant gut issues going on. Like our gut barrier lining is not what it used to be. And this is just from living, whether or not you were eating processed foods, birth control, antibiotics, all the things that many of us have taken. This ends up just wreaking havoc on our gut. And over years, this is something that, we're struggling with. And so gut support can be incredibly helpful when it comes to benefiting from all the good food that you're eating. So all the nutrients, all of that. So a lot of that can have to do with bloating as well, and tightness, like in your midsection. Binge eating after workouts, long workouts. If you're going to binge eat, that's the time to do it. But I don't know. I haven't heard too much about that. I can't say that that's a hot topic of conversation that I have. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, ladies, this was fun. I hope you guys found it really informative. If you have any questions at all, reach out. You can send me a message, reach out to anybody who invited you to this, and we can continue the conversation. But I appreciate you guys for being here, and hopefully you're walking away learning a little something new today. All right, ladies, thanks so much. You're very, very welcome. I'll see you guys later. Bye.